everyone and welcome to this week's Sam Says. I'm Sam from the FPL Family. We're going to be talking about game week 24, obviously not including the second game of this double game week for Liverpool and West Ham, as that's going to happen later next week. But we're going to focus in on a couple of the big games from this week's action, including obviously that first Liverpool game versus Wolves, and also focusing in on the other side of that double game week and looking at what happened when Leicester played West Ham. Then I'm going to go through and have a look at some of the other key FPL assets from the other games, thinking about those that maybe should be on our radars, or are players that even with the run of fixtures that they have coming up, we should be thinking about bringing in right now. Okay, so let's start with one of the big games of game week 24. Wolves 1, Liverpool 2. Now this is probably one of the most important or one of the most defining game weeks of the FPL season. The first double game week always throws up people wanting to use their triple captains or their bench boosts or other of the FPL chips that can be so important in defining how your season goes. This time around with Liverpool's fixtures versus Wolves first, and then at West Ham, the triple captain card was the one that kind of everybody were looking towards. So that chip became so important. Mane, triple captain by 270,144 managers, who then had to watch him walk off the pitch on 32 minutes with what looked like a hamstring injury. Now, at the time it was kind of unsure as to whether it was precautionary or whether it was a genuine, injury that had forced him off. But what we do know from Klopp is that he said immediately after the game that he doesn't see Mane being available for the next few games. He talked about how he probably wouldn't be able to play in the next few games, and then he specifically mentioned the FA Cup game against Shrewsbury at the weekend, West Ham and Southampton. Now, if that's the case, then triple captain Mane's, that's a disaster. 1 point just for playing those 32 minutes, obviously trebled into 3. Really disappointing. It's one of those things that as FPL managers we will kind of dread, and we look at that triple captainship as being defining for the season. So if Mane doesn't play against West Ham in the week, then that's really disappointing for those that have captained him, that have triple captained him, but also just those that own him. He was one of the most transferred in ahead of this game week. No wonder he's kind of so highly owned in the game now, and ahead of that nice double game week, it looks certain that there'll be some FPL returns for him. His teammate then Salah, that also very well captained in terms of that triple captain armband by 220,121 managers, also saw Salah blank, so no returns for him. Also lost the clean sheet. So it ended up on 2. Obviously, if you triple captain him, trebled to 6. Another disappointing night. I think Salah captainers and Salah triple captainers can take a little bit of heart from the number of opportunities that Salah had during that game. He was and could consider himself, and Salah triple captain and Salah captainers, Salah owners can consider themselves a little bit unlucky that he didn't get some attacking returns in that game. He made Patricio put off some excellent saves, and there was definitely opportunity there for him to score goals. There was also a number of opportunities where Salah shot where he really shouldn't have. One in particular where he had the ball and the early pass was on to Firmino. He didn't take that, carried on with his run, and then Oxlade-Chamberlain was absolutely free and in a perfect goal scoring opportunity behind him. And again, Salah chose not to and to take the shot himself. Now, from an FPL point of view, as owners, obviously, we kind of like that selfishness at times because it means more chance of attacking returns for us, but that was a nailed-on opportunity for both Firmino and Oxlade-Chamberlain, and you would have thought or would have expected both of them to kind of put those chances away. It was a much nicer chance than Salah was creating for himself, so a little bit less selfishness from Salah. Might have seen some more attacking returns from him during that game. Firmino obviously left it late for his owners, most lowly owned of the Liverpool attack still, and that's a little bit surprising in some ways given his price point and his different position to Salah and Mane in terms of obviously being a forward in the game whilst they are midfielders. There was a little bit more scope there for change, particularly with the Rashford injury, so I was expecting Firmino's ownership to go up more than it did between game week 23 and game week 24 kicking off. But he scored the winner. Obviously got a bonus point as well and extended his lead at the top of the Liverpool table for points scored away from home this season. He's now got 10 goals in the Premier League this season. All 10 of those have come away from Anfield. So if you triple captained Firmino like I did, that's looking good right now. Let's see if he can return again against West Ham next week. But nice start for Firmino in the double game week. Same can also be said for Trent. Got the assist in the game for Henderson's goal. So he was looking really promising as well. And then he then went on, and you were hoping that he would go on to keep a clean sheet. But Liverpool lost the goal to Jimenez, which we'll talk about later. And as a result of that, Trent obviously lost the clean sheet bonus that he gets as a defender, and lost the bonus points that he was on earlier on in the game as the game was going through. So, reasonable start for Trent owners. I think you'd have taken an assist at the beginning of the game, but a little bit unlucky that there wasn't bigger returns there, I think, for him in that game. He had plenty of really good opportunities, and that bodes well for the game against West Ham in midweek. The rest of the Liverpool defence, however, disappointing if you have the double up or if you bought in one of those guys. Alisson with just the 2 for losing his clean sheet. Same for Gomez and Van Dijk. Robertson with just 1 having been booked. So really, really disappointing if you're owning one of those guys going into game week 24. I think you would have expected a little bit more maybe, although of the 2 games that Liverpool faced in this double game week, this was definitely the more tough test, and that was proven. It was a really difficult game for Liverpool. The standout performer in this game for Liverpool, Jordan Henderson, scored the opener and then assisted Firmino. So if you bought in Jordan Henderson ahead of this double game week, then that looks absolutely inspired right now. He was really, really good, pivotal in kind of had the way that Liverpool played. Now that Mane injury did change the dynamics. Liverpool playing really well up until that point. They were kind of controlling a little bit more of the game than they did once Mane came off and Minamino came on. I think there's a little bit kind of learning to do with Minamino and the rest of that Liverpool team before they kind of settle into a pattern of how each other plays and where each other is going to be. From a Wolves point of view, I thought Wolves were absolutely excellent during that game. And really gave Liverpool a real strong kind of test, which they almost, and I thought until the very end that they were going to get something out of that game. Jimenez proving to be a bit fixture proof. Now, the next couple of games for Wolves look on paper to be challenging with Leicester and Manchester United, but actually both of those defences have been quite leaky of late. Leicester not keeping many clean sheets, same for Manchester United. So I wouldn't rule out bringing in Jimenez on the basis of the fixtures. He has proved to be fixture proof over the course of this season, and now with the equaliser got the 2 bonus points. That means that since game week 12, obviously he's had 12 game weeks of returns since game week 8. So he is looking on really good form. He's consistent, and at his price point, he offers really, really nice value for money, as does his teammate Adama Traore, who was absolutely ridiculously good. He was winning all the balls. He was everywhere. Everywhere you look, Traore was there. If you don't own Traore and you're looking for a reasonably cheap midfielder who will or looks to get attacking returns at every given opportunity and is always looking for his teammates, particularly in Jimenez, they look a really nice partnership together. So the 2 of them look really, really promising as FPL assets. So we go into the second of the games in this Liverpool double game week with advantage to Firmino and Trent owners. Obviously, plenty of opportunity for Robertson, Van Dijk, Alisson, Salah owners, Salah captainers, triple captainers, the like, to kind of catch up in that game. Let's wait and see what Klopp has to say about Mane. He came out on Friday during press conferences and was talking about how Mane is in a scan. So we're yet to understand, or at time of filming, we're yet to understand what that scan showed. But we'll see come the weekend and the FA Cup press conference and the post-match interviews as to what happens and whether we're likely to see Mane line up for Liverpool against West Ham on Wednesday evening. The second game that I've chosen to pick out is the other half of the double game week clubs. Leicester 4, West Ham 1. Now, in many ways, I think the scoreline flatters Leicester a little bit. Goals from Harvey Barnes, Pereira, 2 from Perez, and then the 1 goal for West Ham coming from Mark Noble. It looks like it was a bit of a whitewash. Actually, I thought West Ham put up quite a good fight during that game. Lots and lots of injuries in this game. You know, we lost Mane in the Liverpool game on Thursday evening. In this game, Leicester were really unlucky. They lost Jamie Vardy to what now appears to be a problem with his glute. So he, again, Vardy is a challenge at the moment, owning Jamie Vardy. He's yet to score in 2020. He has obviously failed to score again on Wednesday evening in this game against West Ham. Hobbled off with this injury too, or kind of problem in his glute on 41 minutes. So no, not looking great, but he did walk off the pitch, and that's always a bonus. Now he is now without a returning game week 18. We have to remember that he has missed some games in that period where he was out with the baby and then a calf injury. So there are reasons perhaps as to why Jamie Vardy hasn't got a goal since game week 18. 1 assist so far this year, this calendar year. So he's definitely gone off the boil in many ways, and as FPL owners it's difficult kind of to hold Jamie Vardy, but the news coming out of Leicester at the moment is quite positive. Rodgers kind of hinting that he, you know, should be fine for the next Premier League game at least, in game week 25. So if you are a Vardy owner and you are looking to move him on because of form, and because actually Leicester aren't playing that, or he's not playing that well, he's not the one that's getting the attacking returns, then that's fine. If you're looking to move him on because of the injury and not because you want to, then it's worth holding him for a little while just to see what happens over the FA Cup weekend. The benefit for us as FPL managers of having the FA Cup weekend now is that we hear from the managers a few times before the next Premier League deadline for us next weekend. So we'll hear from them just before the FA Cup games, we'll hear from them in the aftermath of the FA Cup games, and then we'll obviously hear from them in the press conferences in the build up to game week 25. So in terms of Jamie Vardy, if you don't need to sell him, if you don't want to sell him, there's plenty of opportunities for us to see what Rodgers has to say about Jamie Vardy before we make that final decision. Positive for Leicester, of course, in all of this is that when Jamie Vardy doesn't play, Jose Perez does tend to stand up and be counted. He tends to be the one that makes a difference and plays really well. So in the 3 game weeks that Jamie Vardy has missed recently, he so game week 20, game week 21, and now again in game week 24. And Perez has had a double-digit return in each of those games. In game week 20, he got 2 assists and 10 points. In game week 21, he got a goal and an assist and got 13 points. And now in game week 24, he got the brace and got 15 points. So if Vardy is ruled out, and if we are looking to move on our Leicester player, our Leicester forward, then maybe a downgrade to Perez in obviously the midfield position might not necessarily be such a bad idea. At 6.1 million in the game, he's going to free up a lot of money. I just think that we need to be aware that if we are going to gamble on bringing in Jose Perez, he's not been that consistent. As I say, he tends to perform better when Vardy isn't on the pitch. Now, obviously, being their talisman, you would expect that if Vardy is fit and available, he will start for Leicester City, and then that might temper our interest in owning Perez. But he's definitely one to watch if we get bad news out of Rodgers over the next sort of week to 10 days. Another Leicester player who stood out in that game was Harvey Barnes. Rodgers talked about how he was outstanding in that game, and he said that it was arguably his best. It was arguably the best he's been since I've been here. He's getting better all the time. I think the goal against Burnley has given him confidence. He's improving, he's developing, he's got power, he's got speed. He can go either way, and like I say, he's getting goals and creating goals. Now, as FPL managers, those things that Rodgers has just said about Harvey Barnes are exactly the sort of things that we want from the players that we bring in our teams: creating goals, scoring goals, shooting at goal. All of those things, the speed, the going either way, the power, they're all going to be great for us in terms of not only getting attacking returns, but that bonus point system and accumulating the points that you're going to need for those too. Makes him, look, you got to kind of keep an eye on what he's doing. Now, at 5.9 in the game, he's really nice and cheap enabler that's going to allow you, if you want to look at some of the more expensive options in the game, he's definitely going to allow you to do that. Plus, he's only owned by 0.7% of the game at the time of recording. So that means that for us as FPL managers, he would be a lovely, lovely differential. Now, at a time where Leicester are kind of not doing that well defensively, and we'll talk about the defensive assets in a minute. We would be looking, or they will be looking, for their forward guys to be scoring as many goals as possible in order that they keep winning games, because that, at the end of the day, if you're going to concede, you got to score more goals. So I think for us as FPL managers, the likes of Harvey Barnes and Perez, more so Harvey Barnes for me actually, I think could be a really nice move into that Leicester team if we're looking to move out Jamie Vardy. In terms of that Leicester defence, really disappointing to see yet again the Leicester clean sheet disappear with that Mark Noble penalty. I think for us as FPL managers, it leaves us in a little bit of a quandary as to what we do with our relatively expensive Leicester defence. Obviously Kasper Schmeichel, the likes of Soyuncu, Chilwell. They are all players who are highly owned in the game, reasonably highly owned in the game, and are actually quite expensive now to own as FPL assets. And they're players that you would expect and you would hope would bring more returns than they have been. And so we need to now kind of start thinking about what we do with these guys. Leicester now conceded in every game bar one in the last 9 game weeks. So that's not great for us in terms of owning their defence. They next have to play against Chelsea and Wolves and City, and then there's potential that Leicester blank in game week 28. That's when the League Cup final is. So if Leicester make it through to the League Cup final, they'll have these 3 tough games, particularly defensively, 3 tough games against Chelsea, Wolves and Manchester City, who you would all expect can score goals across those games, and then a blank. We kind of need to start thinking particular about our Leicester defenders. Those Leicester defenders are taking up an important space in our team. They're not so easy to bench because of the amount of money we've got invested in them, and so potentially the question is there. The one guy that's probably ruled himself out of the discussion again about getting rid of them is Pereira. Obviously in this game, scored a goal, got an assist, so less important for us if we own him than if we say own Soyuncu or Chilwell, that we think about what we do with those. We've already spoken about the Vardy injury, but alongside that, Leicester also lost Mendy during the game. And from the West Ham perspective, ahead of their double, which is also important, one of the more highly transferred in, I should say, players for West Ham was Snodgrass, who took a knock to his knee within the first 5 minutes or so, and then kind of struggled through the first half and was substituted at half time, didn't make it back out after the break. Now, he's talked about how he needs to have a scan on that knee to see what's happened. He was talking about how he's previously obviously been injured there, so it's just a case of checking to see what happened. Hopefully it didn't look too serious. He continued to play for the rest of the first half afterwards. Hopefully it was just precautionary for those that bought him in for the double game week, and we will see him again against Liverpool next week. But again, really important with these press conferences during the FA Cup and in the press conference building up to game week 25 that we pay close attention to what Rodgers and of course Moyes have to say about these players. If you were really brave and brought in a West Ham defender ahead of the double game week, which with games against Leicester and Liverpool was a really brave decision. Unfortunately they blanked during the course of this game week. Conceding 4 will do that for you. The only one that did return any points was Randolph in goal, who got a save point this week. Looking forward to this Liverpool game. Could be difficult, particularly if Snodgrass doesn't make it. I'm not necessarily expecting clean sheets from West Ham in game week 24 part 2. But let's see, they never know, they might surprise me. On a positive point of view from West Ham though, Haller and Noble both returning. Haller with the assist for the Noble penalty. Haller, it was one of the only things that he did do. No shots in that game for him, but he was doing well at kind of putting in crosses and creating opportunities for other people. So that bodes well. I think if you own Haller, if you bought him in for the double game week, that still looks like it could be a good decision, particularly with another game to come against Liverpool. Same with Mark Noble, obviously, always has a penalty in his locker, does Noble. So if you bought him in, another good decision. And finally, for West Ham, a player that's definitely worth mentioning is Antonio. Came on at half time on the back of his injury, saw a lot of possession, created a lot more threat for West Ham, and actually made the whole West Ham team tick a bit better. I think that he looks like the one that is going to kind of drag West Ham through the next few games. So having him back is going to be so pivotal to them. I don't think many people bought in Antonio, but what he might just do is create something for the West Ham people that we did bring in. So the likes of Snodgrass, Haller, maybe some people on Noble as well. There might just be a few more opportunities, Lanzini, for those guys with Antonio on the pitch than there is without him. Okay then, so let's have a little look at the members area stats at the bottom of the scout notes for this game. One of the things that's really kind of key and that's come out quite a lot in the stat area is the threat that came down Leicester's right hand side. So if you read the article, you'll see that there's a detailed table in there which kind of goes through where all of the players were and where the threats that they were creating were coming from. And actually in this game in particular against West Ham, it was all coming from Pereira and Perez down that right hand side. So if you're looking for attacking potential from Leicester, go and have a little look at that table. They do offer some good threat down that right hand side. Haller, we've already talked about, had 6 penalty area touches in the game. You'd think that that was positive. The no shots at all though, that kind of outweighs that a little bit. But in terms of assist potential, it was definitely there. Other kind of key things from that game, Barnes and Maddison, they were key in creating Leicester's chances. If you look at the kind of statistics there in terms of balls into good positions, Harvey Barnes and James Maddison both doing really well for Leicester in this game. So that's the members area stats for Leicester and West Ham. West Ham got a tough fixture to finish off game week 24 against Liverpool at the London Stadium this week, or during the midweek next week after this round of FA Cup fixtures. So if you brought in a West Ham player like I did, it's not all over yet. There is potential, and there was some good stuff going on in that West Ham team, and they potentially didn't deserve to be beaten 4-1. I think they were in the game, they got very, very tired towards the end, but there's definitely opportunity there for them to score goals, particularly if Antonio's playing. Okay, so those are the 2 games that I'm going to cover from Game Week 24 in detail. We're now going to have a look at some of the key FPL assets from the other games who did well, or players that were kind of ticking themselves onto our radars. Obviously, I think the first player that's really important to mention is Dean Henderson. A lot of FPL managers benching him because of the fixture. I did. Really gutting. Obviously made the penalty save from the Jesus goal, attempted penalty that he missed. Ended up with 11 points against Manchester City. Now it's worth pulling him out and noting him in particular because of the lovely run of fixtures that Sheffield United are about to embark on now that Manchester City game is over. If you have a look at the fixture ticker and sort it by difficulty, you'll see that Sheffield United sit at the top of that table. There is definitely opportunity for a lot of clean sheets for Sheffield United, and Dean Henderson is a lovely option as a cheap goalkeeper who you can play every single week for the next 5 weeks or so without kind of having to worry at all about rotating or making keeper transfers or anything like that. It's also a way, and I've been using this strategy for a while now, it's a way of making that Sheffield United defence a differential. Pretty much all of the game, or all of the active FPL players and the FPL community that kind of engage on Twitter and on social media, they all seem to own Lundstrom. Of course, you know, he's been such a fantastic FPL asset this season, but what that does mean is that when Sheffield United do keep clean sheets, he doesn't offer any kind of arrow, green arrow or otherwise, because of his ownership levels. Whereas if you own a double Sheffield United defence, including the likes of Henderson, that enables that kind of double whammy when they do keep a clean sheet, and then that allows you to have that nice green arrow. So Dean Henderson is definitely one that we should all be keeping on our radar ahead of this nice run of fixtures. Other players that were kind of on the ball this week for a change at Spurs, Dele Alli and Son. Both of them returning goals, with another assist from Aurier in this game. So the 3 of them that have kind of been the talking points for FPL, all doing something in Harry Kane's absence. Now, it was definitely not the best performance from Spurs. And in terms of bringing in Spurs assets, I'm still a little bit wary of doing so. Now, I own Dele Alli, I kept him because the game was against Norwich, and I thought that there was potential for the Spurs assets to score goals in that game. But I would be a little bit wary. They're definitely ones to watch. I think for me, Lo Celso's game and the way that he played against Norwich in game week 24 was outstanding. Now, he didn't return any FPL assets, but he is definitely one to keep on the radar. That much cheaper than the likes of Dele Alli and Son. But with Eriksen looking ever so increasingly likely to move abroad in the January window, I think Lo Celso is kind of the natural replacement for him, and I would expect to see him continue to get increasing numbers of starts in the Premier League over the next few game weeks. If he can tie that position down and start converting the opportunities that he is creating, then he could be a really, really lovely differential FPL pick for us moving forwards. Another injury, this time to Tammy Abraham in the Chelsea game. Now, he did get the assist before he got injured late on, slid into the advertising hoardings and hurt his ankle, hobbled around a lot, but, you know, did kind of manage to walk down the tunnel and that kind of stuff. So didn't look nasty, but didn't look too serious from a Tammy point of view. Lampard's press conferences will give us some more detail. Lampard spoke on Friday, said it's not broken, so that's positive. It's not no fracture there, so that's positive news from Tammy Abraham owners. Let's see what happens after the FA Cup fixtures in Lampard's post-match interviews, and then in his press conference ahead of Gameweek 25 for some more updates on Tammy Abraham. In terms of, you know, what we should be doing with him as an FPL asset, but did manage to get an assist in this game week, so at least some attacking returns from him. It also in that game, David Luiz getting red carded, so if you own him, he now faces suspension. That's potentially an issue that kind of you've got to solve. Also weakens that Arsenal defence, which at the best of times is unstable, so it might be worth looking at the opposition that Arsenal are going to face whilst Luiz is suspended. And finally, Aguero. Aguero was yet again benched by Pep in game week 24, much to the frustration of his owners, but he did come on and he did score the winner. Whilst that was all going on, Sterling yet again blanked and Jesus missed a penalty. So we did get some attacking returns from Aguero and KDB. We got some clean sheets from the Manchester City defence, which highly unusual for them, but with Laporte back, they looked a little bit more stable. So bit of a mixed bag for the Manchester City assets this week. Worth keeping an eye on moving forward. If we're thinking now with Laporte back in the side about moving our more expensive Leicester assets maybe onto one of the Manchester City defence, and with Laporte back, that might just be an opportunity that's available to us again. Other big news for benchings across the game week, Danny Ings and Lord Lundstrom both benched in their games, both coming on for 1 point cameos, so not ideal if you started them, not ideal if they're coming off your benches. Okay guys, that's it from me this week. I'll be back with another Sam Says at the end of Game Week 25. If you want to know anything more about the games in Game Week 24, including, once it's happened, West Ham versus Liverpool, the scout notes are all available over on our website. Each article takes you through in detail what happened across each game, step by step, and includes all of the kind of key FPL data that you would want, goals, assists, and then of course in the members area stats at the bottom, more in-depth look at, you know, who was where and who was getting the points and why they were getting them. Alright guys, I will see you next time. Talk to you soon. Bye.